Hi, I'm Jennifer Mossotti, 9th District Councilmember with the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Council, and today we're taping a segment of council comment here on the Reynolds Road Roundabout. And with me today I have from the Division of Traffic Engineering, Jim Woods. And Jim and I are going to talk to you about the roundabout, the history of it, and also Officer Alvin Cook is here with us to talk about how do you navigate a roundabout. For viewers who aren't familiar what a roundabout is, right behind us is a roundabout. And you can see the traffic moves continually around here at about a speed of about 15 miles per hour. This roundabout is the second one in Lexington. It came into being in about the year of 2001 when the whole Reynolds Road property was developed. This was an all open space and about 450 acres at the time. And it was determined that a roundabout would be a better traffic management device than just a four-way signalized stop. And Jim is going to talk about that as well. There's several roundabouts in Hilton Head, but we have the distinction of in Lexington of having one major roundabout here and another one in the Alexandria Drive corridor. And with me today I have Jim Woods from the Traffic Engineering Department. Jim, can you tell me a little history of the roundabout and how this came about?
Well, roundabouts have been around many years. They were developed in Europe back probably the 1800s, and they were called rotaries and traffic circles back then. The more modern roundabout, the type you see behind us, was developed in the early 60s in England, and they finally caught on in the late 80s, and the first modern roundabout was implemented in western United States in Utah back in 1990. This roundabout that you see here was planned for in the mid-90s. The developer was an advocate for the design of the roundabout, and the planners agreed with it, and the city of Lexington, and the roundabout was built in the late 90s, opened up in the year summer I think of 2000, and before most of this was even developed. That's the main history of this roundabout.
Do you think it's working?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it works really well, because one of the advantages of this roundabout is there's no traffic signals, and traffic signals are very expensive, and traffic signals are very susceptible to lightning and power outages, and you don't have that concern with a roundabout. The traffic can still continue around it without police having to come out here, and so it works from that perspective. It carries about 18,000+ vehicles a day through here, and that's the reason there are dual lanes at this roundabout. Councilmember Mossotti mentioned the other one was over on Alexandria Drive. It's a single lane. This one's dual lanes. It actually introduces more complexities that the motorist has to negotiate, but nonetheless it's still very successful. We've had a minimum number of severe injuries here. Most of the accidents that occur at this roundabout are minor in nature, and very few injuries compared to a traditional traffic signalized intersection.
Do you think in the future you would use it at another location here in Lexington?
Yes, I would advocate using it if we can get the developers to agree to them. One of the drawbacks to a roundabout, a large drawback, is they take a lot of area. This one uses up probably a couple acres of land, maybe a little bit more. So, and a traffic signal doesn't take near that. So, but we would love to have more roundabouts if they're effective and if they can work in the situation. This one's particularly good because it has a balance of traffic flow on each leg that approaches it. So it seems to work well in that regard.
I get a lot of communications from constituents that just don't know how to really drive the roundabout. Maybe you can give us an idea of what the expectations are when you come to the roundabout.
Well, motorists are supposed to slow down. This roundabout was recently remarked and signed back a few years ago. There's new standards that we were required to follow with the Federal Highway Administration. And so motorists are supposed to follow the signs and the markings. And the most important thing is to slow down and be prepared to stop. And know which direction you're going to go, because if you're going to go around to another street, you need to go in the inner loop. If you're going to exit immediately to the right, you need to stay in the right lane.
And that probably could be said for every intersection. You need to slow down, stop, look both ways, and be cautious of your driving habits and other people's driving habits as well.
Exactly. And the majority of the incidents that have occurred here, and there's a number of them that do occur each year, most of them are attributed to speeding.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate your time. Now I'd like to introduce Officer Alvin Cook, who's been a Lexington police officer for over 18 years and an expert on roundabouts. And Officer Cook, if you could give us some of your expertise on this roundabout, talk about public safety, how to travel and navigate the roundabout, and just how our citizens need to approach this.
Well, the biggest thing, like we talked about before, is slow down when you begin to enter the roundabout. That's the biggest thing that you need to do. If you'll slow down prior to entering, you'll be able to follow those yield signs, and if necessary, stop. Because if traffic is in the roundabout, it has the right-of-way.
That's a good point. So you're saying if the traffic is in the circle, those coming in have to yield to those in the circle?
That is correct.
Okay, that's an important fact.
And another thing is, especially during inclement weather, even think about it again, slow down even more. Again, what we talked about, most of our collisions out here during inclement weather when it's raining, especially during the springtime and summer, the roadway gets a little slick. They try to take the curve around in the roundabout a little too fast. Just slow down. That's all you have to do. Slow down and watch out for the other guy.
Unfortunately, this is designated as the #1 traffic accident location in Lexington. Do you think it's because of the roundabout, or just because folks are not paying attention, or what do you attribute it to?
I contribute to two factors. One is speed, and the other is inattention. Okay? The roundabout is good. It keeps traffic flowing. It keeps people from running red lights and running stop signs because they hate sitting there at a red light thinking, is this light ever going to change? You don't have to worry about a light here. All you've got to do is take a little bit of time and yield to the oncoming traffic that's in the roundabout, and you're good to go.
And Jim Wood said there's about 18,000 cars that go by here a day. Is that a lot of traffic for a roundabout to handle?
That's a lot of traffic for a roundabout to handle, but it can handle it. Just remember that when you come into the roundabout, you have two lanes. The right lane can go to the right, and also the left lane can go to the right. So when you approach that, remember, if you're going on around the roundabout, be careful of that vehicle in the left lane. Slow down, make sure it's going to continue around the roundabout because it can turn right in front of you in the roundabout.
So when they're exiting, they have that option, you're saying?
That is correct.
That both lanes can exit onto one of these spokes, I guess you would call it.
Yes.
And there are, I believe on this roundabout, there looks like there's 4 different spokes.
Yes.
So that's something to be cautious of as well.
Remember, the speed in the roundabout is recommended to be 15 miles an hour. And if you've seen some cars come through here, they're doing a little bit more than 15 miles an hour.
Yes, they are. Officer Cook, you talked about, or I brought up the fact that this is the highest intersection with accidents. And can you elaborate a little bit about that? Have they been serious accidents or fender benders, or based upon your experience, what can you say about that?
Most of the collisions here have been minor collisions. Nobody's really been hurt. Little minor injuries if someone says maybe my neck or my back's hurt a little bit, but they've been very minor, not very severe, no fatalities. The other thing is, think about collisions and roundabouts. Compared to a normal intersection, there's about 80% less collisions and 90% less injuries in a roundabout versus an intersection that has a red light.
That's interesting because, again, I said that this has got the designation of having the highest number of accidents, and I guess it's just because of driver inattention. And I would say there's probably, you would acknowledge this, that there's a lot of driver inattention between cell phones and texting and people just in a hurry and not paying attention. So maybe it's just not the intersection, maybe it's the driver itself in many cases.
That's true, and it's the driver. You got so much technology in the car these days. Plus now you think about the schools you have in this area now. We've added another school out here.
Right.
So you've got children in the car, that's another distraction for the driver. So not only are they trying to talk on the cell phone, they're also trying to talk to their kids, they're trying to pay attention to other things than just the traffic that's involved.
So you would advocate another location as far as a roundabout as well?
Oh yes,
okay.
Roundabouts are great.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your help.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Officer Cook, and thank you, Jim Woods, for being with us this afternoon and talking about the Reynolds Road roundabout. I appreciate your time and your expertise. In general today, we talked about roundabouts and how effective they are. And again, it's all about safety, how you enter a roundabout, and the speed and driver attention. I think, again, it can accommodate a high capacity of cars. We talked about 18,000 plus vehicles a day. It moves very smoothly, as you can see. It's a continual flow of traffic. There's no stopping. You need to know when to yield. Continually move in the inner direction unless you are going to exit. Then you have to be wary of the cars coming on the outer loop. But driver attention is paramount. And as you can see, the speed, again, is much slower than at a regular intersection, and less accidents and less serious accidents. If you have any further questions, please contact me at my office. I can be reached at 258-3215. That's my direct number. My aide is Robert Bolson. He can be contacted as well. And if not, you can reach me at Mossotti at lexingtonky.gov. And I thank you for having us speak with you today. And if you have any further questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.